Riker Valentine hadn't earned his reputation as the galaxy's most feared food critic by being easily impressed. His reviews could make or break establishments across 3 spiral arms, and his standards were legendary. So when the invitation arrived, a shimmering holographic card that smelled faintly of stardust, he was intrigued despite himself. The Celestial Palate cordially invites you to experience dining beyond the boundaries of imagination, the card whispered in his mind. Our executive chef awaits the pleasure of your discerning palate. The restaurant was perched at the edge of the Andromeda Gateway, its crystalline structure catching the light of distant stars. As Riker's private shuttle docked, he noted the other vessels in the parking array, sleek ships belonging to some of the wealthiest beings in the galaxy. The maitre d', a tall Venetian with silver skin and flowing robes, greeted him by name. Mr. Valentine, we've been eagerly anticipating your arrival. Your table awaits in our private constellation room. The dining room was a marvel of engineering, suspended in what appeared to be open space. Force fields held back the vacuum while offering unobstructed views of the cosmos. But Riker wasn't here for the ambience. Our chef has prepared a special tasting menu, the maitre d' announced. Each course is unique to the Celestial Palate, crafted from ingredients sourced from the far reaches of known space. The first few courses were impressive but not revolutionary, until the 5th dish arrived. The server placed a covered plate before him, and when the dome lifted, Riker's cybernetic taste buds registered something entirely new. The meat on his plate seemed to shimmer with an inner light, its surface swirling with colors that shouldn't exist in nature. As he cut into it, he swore he felt something, a whisper of emotion that wasn't his own. "This is extraordinary," he murmured. "I've never encountered anything like it." "The dish is called Essence of Dreams," the server explained. "The primary ingredient is extremely rare, harvested from a species that experiences reality on multiple dimensional planes simultaneously." Riker took another bite, and this time he was certain, there was consciousness in this food, echoes of thoughts and feelings that didn't belong to any normal animal. His augmented senses detected complex neural patterns that should have been impossible in processed meat. As he finished the dish, his investigative instincts began to override his culinary appreciation. In 300 years of reviewing restaurants across the galaxy, he'd encountered many exotic ingredients, but nothing that retained signs of sentience after preparation. "I'd love to compliment the chef personally," he said, carefully maintaining his professional demeanor. "This course particularly intrigues me." "Chef Vexthor will be honored," the server replied. "Though I'm afraid our kitchen areas are strictly off-limits, even to someone of your renown." That was when Riker noticed something odd, a pattern in the server's movements that suggested automated behaviors. Not the fluid motions of a trained professional, but the precise repetition of programmed responses. The rest of the meal passed in a blur of increasingly disturbing revelations. Each subsequent dish carried traces of that same impossible consciousness, and Riker's cybernetic enhancements detected energy signatures that matched known patterns of sentient species. As he prepared to leave, he made a show of effusively praising the experience while his implants recorded everything. But in the shuttle ride home, he wasn't drafting a review, he was composing a message to his other employer, the Galactic Ethics Commission. Someone needed to investigate what was really being served at the Celestial Palate. And Riker Valentine, who had spent centuries building his cover as a simple food critic, was about to reveal his true identity as one of the Commission's deep cover agents. Little did he know, his next visit to the Celestial Palate would change not just his career, but the fate of countless sentient beings across the galaxy. Getting hired at the Celestial Palate proved surprisingly easy. Riker's centuries-old reputation opened doors, even if those doors led straight into Hell's Kitchen. Within a week of submitting his application, he found himself standing in the prep area, wearing the restaurant's iconic quantum-threaded chef whites. The kitchen was a masterpiece of efficiency and horror. At first glance, it appeared to be a typical high-end galactic restaurant kitchen, pristine surfaces, matter manipulators, molecular reconstructors. But Riker's augmented vision revealed the truth beneath the gleaming exterior: hidden doors, false walls, and energy signatures that shouldn't exist in a legitimate establishment. "Your station," head chef Vexthor announced, gesturing with one of his 4 upper arms. The Quotilion's carapace gleamed under the artificial lights, his compound eyes reflecting Riker's face like fractured mirrors. "You'll be handling special preparation for our premium menu items." The special prep area was separated from the main kitchen by a quantum barrier. As Riker passed through it, his implants detected a subtle shift: they were being actively jammed. Whatever happened in this section was meant to stay hidden. That's when he saw her. She was floating in a containment field, her form shifting between states like liquid starlight. One moment humanoid, the next a creature of pure energy, then something his mind couldn't quite comprehend. A prismatic, one of the rarest sentient species in the known galaxy. Their eyes met, and Riker felt a presence brush against his mind. "Help us." He maintained his professional facade while his cybernetic systems recorded everything. "Fascinating specimen," he said, forcing himself to use their terminology. "I wasn't aware prismatics could be harvested." "They can't, legally," Vexthor clicked his mandibles in what passed for a smile. "But our clientele pays well for the impossible. You understand, of course?" Riker nodded, though his artificial heart was racing. "Of course. Though I'm curious about the preparation method. I've heard prismatics are notoriously unstable once processed." The prismatic's form flickered, and another thought touched his mind. "The others. Below. We have special techniques," Vexthor began explaining the horrific process, while Riker pretended to listen intently. His real focus was on the subtle mapping his implants were conducting, building a blueprint of the facility's hidden areas. That night, after his shift, Riker accessed his findings in his private quarters. The restaurant substructure contained dozens of containment cells, each holding different sentient species. The prismatic was just the tip of the iceberg. "We can hear you thinking of us." The voice in his head startled him. The prismatic had managed to maintain a connection despite the distance and shielding. "I'm here to help," he thought back. "But I need to know more. How many of you are there?" "Hundreds. Across many facilities. We are not the first. Won't be the last. Unless..." A plan began forming in Riker's mind. The Commission would need irrefutable evidence to act against an operation this sophisticated. And the prismatic's telepathic abilities might be the key to gathering it. But as he prepared to send another thought, alarms blared throughout the station. Had he been discovered? No, something else was wrong. "All staff report to Special Prep immediately," Vexthor's voice echoed through the comm system. "We have a situation with the premium stock." Riker rushed to the kitchen, his mind racing. Through his connection with the prismatic, he felt waves of hope and terror washing over him. Something had happened in the containment cells. Something that would either doom them all or provide the opportunity he desperately needed. The choice he made in the next few minutes would determine not just his fate, but the fate of hundreds of sentient beings. And somewhere in the depths of the celestial palette, a revolution was about to begin. The containment levels of the celestial palette had descended into beautiful chaos. A group of crystalline hive minds had somehow synchronized their resonance frequencies, shattering their containment fields and those of dozens of other captives. As Riker raced down with the response team, he could feel the prismatic's excitement burning in his mind. Now. It must be now. The corridors were filled with escaped ingredients, each fighting for survival. Riker's augmented reflexes allowed him to dodge a charging uranite, its radioactive form leaving scorch marks on the walls. Behind him, security drones were attempting to restore order with stun fields and containment nets. "Valentine." Vexthor's voice cut through the chaos. "Secure the prismatic. She's our most valuable asset." Riker ran toward the special prep area, his mind already connected to the prismatic's consciousness. "I'll get you out, but we need to help the others." "The others are creating a diversion," she responded. "They knew this day would come. We planned it together, across our cells, sharing thoughts in the dark." When he reached her containment field, he found her waiting. Her form had stabilized into something almost human, though her skin rippled with cosmic energy. Up close, he could see intelligence and determination in her iridescent eyes. "I'm Lyriel," she said aloud, her voice like chimes in a solar wind. "And you're not really a chef." "Galactic Ethics Commission," he replied, overriding the containment field's controls with his cybernetic implants. "Though I do write excellent restaurant reviews." The field collapsed, and Lyriel stepped out, her feet barely touching the ground. "We need to reach the central server core. Everything they've done, every transaction, every delivery, it's all recorded there." Security alerts blared as they ran through the chaos. Some of the escaped beings recognized Lyriel, responding to her telepathic commands by creating additional disruptions. A group of quantum jellies merged into a massive barrier, blocking pursuing security forces. They reached the server core, a crystalline structure pulsing with data streams. Riker's implants interfaced with the system while Lyriel stood guard, her form shifting between states to deflect incoming attacks. "The data's encrypted," he growled in frustration. "Let me help." Lyriel placed her hand on his shoulder, and suddenly his consciousness expanded. Through her abilities, he could see the encryption patterns as tangible shapes, rearranging them like puzzle pieces in space. The files unlocked, revealing the true scope of the Celestial Palette's operation. Shipping manifestos, client lists, facility locations, an entire network of restaurants across the galaxy, each serving sentient beings to the wealthy and powerful. "Incoming." Lyriel's warning came with a burst of defensive energy as Vexthor and his security team breached the server room. "You disappoint me, Valentine," the head chef's mandibles clicked in fury. "You could have been part of something extraordinary." "The only extraordinary thing," Riker replied, completing the data transfer to his secure commission uplink, "is how long you got away with this." Vexthor launched himself forward, multiple arms wielding plasma cutters. But Lyriel was faster. Her form exploded into pure energy, enveloping Riker in a protective field as she confronted their attackers. "The others are reaching the escape pods," her thoughts touched his mind. "But we're not finished here." She was right. They had the evidence, but the Celestial Palette was just one restaurant in a vast chain of horrors. And somewhere out there, the true owners were about to discover their secret ingredient had developed a taste for freedom. As alarms blared and battles raged through the station, Riker and Lyriel prepared for the next phase of their mission. The real war was just beginning, and their enemies had resources that stretched across the stars. But first, they had to survive the next few minutes, as Vexthor's reinforcements poured into the server room, and the station's self-destruct sequence began its ominous countdown. The escape pod hurtled through hyperspace, its cramped interior barely containing Lyriel's shifting energy form. Riker's cybernetic systems interfaced with the pod's controls, plotting a course through the quantum wake patterns of their pursuers. "They're gaining," he announced, watching multiple signatures of celestial palette vessels converging on their position. These pods weren't designed for extended pursuit. Lyriel's form condensed, taking on a more solid appearance. "I know somewhere we can go. A place they'd never look." Her iridescent eyes met his. "Do you trust me?" Before he could answer, the pod sensors screamed. A massive vessel had emerged from hyperspace directly ahead, the Gourmand, flagship of the restaurant chain's secretive owner, Baron Nexus Blackstar. "Your interference has become quite tiresome," a voice echoed through their communications system. "Though I must admit, you've provided an interesting new recipe, cybernetically enhanced human served with a side of prismatic energy." Riker's fingers flew across the controls, but the pod was already caught in a tractor beam. Beside him, Lyriel's form began to pulse with increasing intensity. Ready yourself, her thoughts touched his mind. What I'm about to do, it's only theoretical among my people. The tractor beam pulled them closer to the massive ship's docking bay. Riker could see armed figures waiting, weapons trained on their pod. Lyriel's form suddenly exploded into pure energy, enveloping their tiny vessel. Through their mental connection, Riker felt her consciousness expanding, reaching into the quantum realm where her species naturally existed. Impossible. Baron Blackstar's voice crackled. No prismatic has ever. The pod, wrapped in Lyriel's energy, phased through the tractor beam as if it didn't exist. They shot past the gourmand, leaving reality itself distorted in their wake. When they emerged, they were in a sector of space Riker had never seen. A binary star system cast everything in perpetual twilight, and floating around them were thousands of crystalline structures that seemed to defy physics. "Welcome," Lyriel said weakly, her form flickering as she recovered, to the prismatic sanctuary. The one place in the galaxy that exists in all dimensions simultaneously. The crystalline structures moved, forming a protective barrier around their pod. As they docked with the nearest structure, Riker saw other prismatics emerging to greet them, their forms shifting through impossible colors. "The evidence we stole needs to reach the Commission," Riker said, helping Lyriel from the pod. "But they'll be watching all the normal channels. The sanctuary exists outside normal spacetime," she explained. "We can communicate from here without detection. But first..." She turned to face him, her form stabilizing into something almost human. "There's something you need to understand about why they wanted my people so badly." Inside the crystal structure, Lyriel showed him memories that made his cybernetic system struggle to process. The prismatics weren't just shapeshifters, they were living bridges between dimensions, capable of accessing realities beyond normal comprehension. "Baron Blackstar didn't just want to serve us as food," she explained. "He wanted to use our abilities to access other dimensions, to expand his empire beyond this reality. Each prismatic consumed grants the Eater a temporary glimpse of these other realms." A plan began forming in Riker's mind. With the prismatics' help, they could not only expose the restaurant chain but set a trap for Blackstar himself. But it would mean using Lyriel and her people as bait, something he wasn't sure he could ask of them. As if reading his thoughts, which she probably was, Lyriel took his hand. Her touch sent quantum energy coursing through his cybernetics, showing him possibilities that existed across multiple dimensions. "We're not just fighting for freedom," she said. "We're fighting for the very nature of reality itself. And I know exactly how to make Baron Blackstar take the bait." Outside the sanctuary, the gourmand and its fleet searched fruitlessly through normal space, unaware that their quarry was plotting their downfall from a dimension they couldn't even perceive. But time was running out. The longer they waited, the more of Lyriel's people would suffer in other celestial pallet facilities across the galaxy. They had the evidence, they had a plan, and they had each other. Now they just needed to spring their trap without destroying the fabric of reality in the process. Baron Nexus Blackstar's private dining room aboard the Gourmand was everything one would expect from the galaxy's most notorious restaurateur: opulent, excessive, and deeply wrong. Quantum-locked windows showed views of 1,000 realities simultaneously, each one a potential market for his expanding empire. The Baron himself sat at the head of a table carved from crystallized dark matter, his form hidden within an environment suit necessary for his toxic physiology. Before him, a covered dish waited. "You've outdone yourself," he addressed the figure standing nearby. "To capture not only the escaped prismatic but the commission agent as well. Perhaps you're ready for a promotion, Chef Valentine." Riker bowed slightly, his chef's whites pristine. "I simply understood their patterns, sir. Fugitives always run to what they think is safe." The Baron's suit hissed as he laughed. The prismatic sanctuary. Hidden in plain sight, existing in multiple dimensions. "And now, thanks to you, mine to exploit. Your dinner is prepared, Riker gestured to the covered dish. The prismatic essence, combined with the neural patterns of a cybernetically enhanced human. A truly unique experience. The Baron's environment suit extended feeding tubes toward the dish. And the prisoners? Contained. Though I recommend consuming this while fresh. The dimensional energies are unstable. As the Baron's feeding tubes pierced the dish's surface, reality itself seemed to shudder. The quantum-locked windows flickered, showing the same scene repeated across countless dimensions. Something's wrong, the Baron's voice distorted. This taste, this feeling. Now, Riker thought. The dish exploded in a burst of prismatic energy, revealing Lyriel in her pure energy form. She flowed into the Baron's feeding tubes before he could retract them, her consciousness invading his systems. Riker's cybernetic implants activated, connecting with the Gourmand security network. Across the ship, doors sealed and systems locked down. But the real battle was happening on a plane of existence he could barely perceive. Through his neural link with Lyriel, he felt fragments of the conflict. She was forcing the Baron to experience every memory, every moment of pain and terror his victims had endured. Not just in this dimension, but across all of them. Security override, the Baron screamed, his suit's systems failing. Emergency proto. Look, Lyriel's voice echoed through every mind on the ship. Look what you've done. What you truly are. The quantum windows shattered, reality bleeding through the gaps. In the chaos, Riker activated the final phase of their plan. Throughout the galaxy, at every celestial pallet location, evidence was being broadcast. Customer lists, surveillance footage, transaction records, everything. The Baron's environment suit cracked, unable to contain the dimensional energies coursing through it. Inside, his true form was being forced to experience existence in all dimensions simultaneously, a fate his physiology was never meant to endure. Enough, Riker called out, feeling Lyriel's energy approaching dangerous levels. We need him alive to face justice. The light show ended. The Baron collapsed, his suit permanently fused into a crystalline prison of his own making. Through the quantum windows, Riker could see commissioned ships arriving across multiple dimensions, their timing perfect.